Coachmen just detonated a bomb in the R-Vee world, and nobody saw it coming. No teasers, no slow rollout. They simply dropped the 2026 lineup overnight, and the entire industry flinched. Dealers scrambled, competing brands went silent, and within hours, leaked build sheets exposed upgrades that shouldn't exist at these prices. And here's the real twist. These upgrades should have cost thousands more, yet the prices barely moved. That shift alone is already reshaping negotiations across multiple segments. What comes next could change how much you pay this year, or how much you save. Coachmen, Clipper, the entry-level price reset. The first sign that something had shifted in the low-cost segment came from a single price sheet that did not match the market's direction. The entire lower-cost travel trailer segment had been drifting upward in price for nearly 4 straight seasons. Yet this one arrival pushed the trend in the opposite direction. What caught attention first was not a glossy feature or a decorative trim piece. It was the number printed at the bottom of a dealer's pre-delivery worksheet. That sheet showed the 17 BHS configuration listed at 19,980, when compared to the previous launch cycle's 23,695. The drop was substantial enough to raise questions inside several regional groups. The proof felt concrete when a technician in Elkhart shared a photograph of 3 unopened 2024 units sitting behind a service bay. Each carried handwritten markdown tags that had been added days after the 2026 figures started circulating. None of that happened by accident. Build notes reveal that Coachmen trimmed cabinet mass, simplified underbed framing, and revised the wall structure to reduce production time. Those adjustments allowed cost reductions without stripping away the essentials that matter on the road. The financial consequence is plain. When a new model arrives priced lower than the older one, dealers holding unsold stock feel pressure immediately. Floor plan interest charges do not slow down. That is why some locations in Indiana and Arizona began offering under-the-table reductions before sunrise, hoping to move remaining inventory while the window was still open. Watching that unfold teaches an important truth. Timing controls value more than any brochure page. Someone looking at a Clipper today gains leverage from these shifts, but only if the conversation begins with the real numbers, not the sticker. Ask about the new model offset. Mention that the 2026 price is already documented. Make the negotiation about evidence, not emotion. The important shift with the Clipper 2026 is how quickly its pricing reshaped the entry-level segment. When a new unit arrives with documented improvements, reduced structural weight, and a noticeably leaner price sheet, it forces older models into a corner. Dealers know carrying costs do not slow down, so they react immediately. That reaction creates a timing window where negotiation becomes grounded in evidence rather than guesswork. As the dust settles around the Clipper's pricing shift, the real tension moves toward the mid-tier, where the Catalina 2026 quietly reshapes expectations in a different way. Coachmen Catalina, mid-tier value that should not be this low. Mid-tier trailers rarely deliver surprises, yet the moment the latest Catalina numbers surfaced, the usual trend stopped holding together. Mid-tier trailers have followed a steady climb for nearly 5 uninterrupted seasons. Yet this model disrupted that trajectory with a firmness that felt intentional. The first hint appeared on a construction summary circulated among regional managers. It listed upgraded insulation levels, sturdier cabinet anchoring, and a refined slide mechanism, all delivered with an MSRP adjustment of less than 2%. That detail alone signaled an unusual strategy, because comparable models in the same class had increased by 7% or more during their latest cycles. Validation came quickly when a dealer from Northern Ohio shared a photograph of 2 2024 Catalinas parked beside a row of freight pallets. Both units carried markdown cards written in thick red marker, a direct reaction to the arrival of the 2026 numbers. That is how you know a shift is real. When older stock becomes difficult to justify, dealerships respond before anyone asks a question. Their floor plan interest does not pause, and aging inventory becomes a financial leak they cannot ignore. The structural improvements deserve attention. Coachmen revised the thermal barrier with new materials layered behind the exterior skin, creating steadier temperature control without significant weight gain. Cabinet interiors moved to a tighter brace design, resolving a complaint that had followed several earlier models. Slide mechanisms received new runner geometry meant to reduce binding under uneven load. None of these refinements shout for attention, yet each one influences long-term durability, which is where real value actually lives. challenges. Financially, the impact is straightforward. When a mid-tier model arrives with documented improvements and minimal price movement, the leverage shifts toward anyone willing to negotiate with evidence in hand. Begin with the construction sheet. Mention the under 2% adjustment. Make clear that rival models have risen far more aggressively. Dealers know this, and the conversation changes once the numbers are spoken plainly. What stands out about the Catalina 2026 is how its restrained price movement reveals weakness in neighboring models. When one mid-tier trailer arrives with upgraded insulation, sturdier cabinetry, and a refined slide system, all while avoiding the usual upward swing, it exposes how aggressively other brands raised their figures. That kind of comparison makes negotiation clearer, because documented improvements, combined with stable pricing, leave very little room for inflated claims. The Catalina 2026 is more than an upgrade. It is a signal of pressure building inside the mid-tier segment. Once you see how Catalina resets the middle ground, the conversation naturally climbs toward the fifth wheel arena, where Chaparral has rewritten the rules on structure and cost. If breakdowns like these help you stay ahead of shifting R-Vee prices, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. Share your experience in the comments so others can see what is happening at their local lots before the next cycle hits. Coachmen, Chaparral, fifth wheel, with premium features at mid-pricing. Few moments in the fifth wheel world disrupt expectations, but the latest structural data hit with a weight that demanded a second look. Fifth wheels have been edging upward for several seasons, yet this model pushed back with a combination of refinement and restraint that immediately caught attention. What made the shift unmistakable was a weight specification showing the 336 TSIK configuration trimmed by 310 pounds compared to the previous cycle, documented on a construction sheet circulated through several dealer groups. That reduction alone signaled a rethink of structure, tooling, and component placement. Confirmation came from a service technician in Wakarusa who shared a photograph of a newly arrived 2026 unit lifted on a bay stand. The image showed revised frame bracing, a cleaner underside layout, and upgraded automotive-style seals ringing the exterior access points. None of this was theatrical. It was functional improvement, the sort of refinement that influences long-term reliability more than any decorative surface ever will. When you combine structural discipline with measured feature upgrades, the result becomes difficult for competing brands to explain. One detail that stood out was the new Smart Touch power control hub, mounted near the entry. Instead of oversized touchscreens, this system focused on simple routing, dependable switches, and clear status indicators. That design choice helped streamline electrical loads and reduce unnecessary complexity. It also lowered service risk, something technicians appreciate more than any marketing phrase. Coachmen appears to have targeted real usage problems rather than showroom impressions, and that is usually where meaningful progress begins. Financially, the consequences traveled fast. Mid-tier fifth wheels with inflated pricing now must justify their premiums against a model offering comparable or superior structure at a noticeably lower figure. When a Chaparral lands with documented improvements, trimmed weight, and competitive pricing, negotiation shifts in a new direction. Bring the construction sheet into the discussion. Ask about build differences. Speak through evidence. And the leverage becomes clear. The Chaparral 2026 demonstrates how structural refinement can outpace price growth without sacrificing reliability. By trimming weight, strengthening underframe bracing, and implementing practical systems rather than ornamental features, it creates a measurable contrast against fifth wheels priced significantly higher. When a model offers cleaner engineering and tighter construction at a restrained cost, it changes how buyers compare spec sheets and forces dealerships to justify every added charge more carefully. With the fifth wheel landscape bending under Chaparral's footprint, attention drifts toward the lightweight segment, where the Apex Nano 2026 redefines efficiency from the ground forward. Coachmen, Apex Nano, the lightweight efficiency shift. You can often predict the shape of lightweight trailers before the year begins, though the aerodynamic documents for this cycle broke that pattern immediately. Lightweight units have always promised fuel savings, yet this model pushed that promise into measurable territory. The internal sheet, shared among several regional managers, documented a projected aerodynamic improvement of between 6 and 9% on the 208 BHS configuration. That figure was not marketing language. It came from revised front cap curvature and a reworked underbody contour designed to reduce drag at highway speed. The first real-world confirmation appeared when a technician from Elkhart uploaded a photograph of a 2024 Apex Nano parked beside one of the new 2026 units. The difference along the front edge was unmistakable. The new profile carried a gentler taper, a softened transition from roofline to nose, and a cleaner lower skirt. None of it was decorative. Every curve was positioned to redirect airflow and limit resistance, and that is where long-term operating cost begins to shift. When a tow vehicle encounters less drag, the fuel gauge moves differently, and that difference becomes part of the ownership equation. Another detail worth noting is the structural refinement behind the walls. Coachmen introduced a new insulation layering formula intended to stabilize interior temperature without increasing overall mass. That combination matters because lightweight trailers often struggle with thermal drift on hot or cold days. By tightening the thermal envelope, the Apex Nano 2026 reduces the load on climate control systems, which further influences energy use and long-term comfort. A brief video clip shared by a dealership in central Indiana even showed the revised insulation pattern being installed, confirming the shift was not theoretical. Financially, this model forces a recalibration. When a lightweight unit delivers proven aerodynamic and thermal gains without inflating its burden on the tow vehicle, depreciation math changes. Used Apex units hold steadier because the 2026 model did not spike in price. Competing trailers will feel pressure because sudden improvements often reveal how stagnant the surrounding segment has become. The Apex Nano 2026 stands apart because its aerodynamic revisions deliver something lightweight trailers rarely provide: verifiable operating savings. When drag reduction appears on engineering documents and can be seen in side-by-side comparisons, it stops being speculation. Combined with improved thermal insulation, the result is a trailer that reduces strain on tow vehicles and stabilizes interior comfort. That mix directly influences running costs, especially over long seasonal travel. After witnessing how Apex Nano shifts the numbers on towing and fuel, the focus rises to the Class A realm, where the Encore 2026 delivers a surprise the segment was not prepared for. Coachmen Encore Class A gas that underpriced the segment. Class A gas models tend to march upward in price with quiet consistency. Yet this release arrived like a firm interruption to that routine. A dealer sheet from northern Indiana revealed listings between $181,000 and $189,000. Those numbers immediately undercut comparable gasoline rigs from competing brands by well over $20,000. The moment photographs of the cockpit redesign surfaced, the shift became even clearer. The dash carried a softer texture, cleaner sightlines, and a newly integrated 360-degree camera array. A technician in Elkhart shared an image of the wiring channels behind the panel, confirming a tidier and more stable layout. That detail matters because Class A systems often suffer from clutter that complicates long-term maintenance. The Encore 2026 addressed that weakness with deliberate routing rather than flashy decoration. Underbody photographs posted by a dealership in central Ohio revealed cleaner welds and improved moisture shielding beneath the forward compartments. Those refinements demonstrated attention directed toward durability instead of cosmetic enhancement, a direction long overdue in this segment. Financial pressure formed quickly once those build notes circulated among sales teams. When a new Class A arrives with verifiable improvements and a restrained price range, older inventory becomes harder to justify. Floor plan interest does not pause, so dealerships respond by adjusting figures before questions start. Anyone evaluating the Encore 2026 can use these documented differences as leverage, since the value equation is now in plain sight. Ask about the chassis updates, the insulation revisions, and the electrical organization shown in the shared photographs. For many seasons, this portion of the market carried inflated pricing without meaningful substance. The Encore 2026 changes that pattern by aligning structural refinement with grounded cost discipline. If previous chapters hinted at emerging pressure, this one confirms the wider reset already taking shape across the gasoline Class A field. The Encore 2026 disrupts its class because it delivers structural refinement where competing models relied on cosmetic upgrades. A cleaner cockpit layout, strengthened underbody shielding, and better organized mechanical routing all contribute to long-term confidence without inflating costs. When a Class A arrives priced well below its peers while showing tangible improvements, it forces dealerships holding older, higher-priced stock to reconsider their margins far sooner than they anticipated. Once the Encore demonstrates how far disciplined pricing can reach, the next ripple lands squarely on the Class C field, where the Freelander 2026 2026 alters the market's balance. If you want the next update the moment the new data comes in, make sure you subscribe. The changes moving through this market are happening faster than most people realize, and the next release could affect your timing more than anything shown today. Coachmen Freelander, the Class C, that triggered the price correction. Class C motorhomes have been drifting into familiar pricing territory for years until one sheet of dealer figures refused to follow the same arc. It entered the market like a quiet correction after several seasons of rising costs and thinning value, and the reaction from dealerships confirmed that something deeper was shifting. The first indication came from a supplier bulletin which noted that chassis component expenses had risen during the past cycle, yet the new pricing for the 2026 Freelander held steady, refusing the usual upward push that competitors had already accepted. That restraint prompted several managers to look closer, and what they found changed the tone of the entire segment. A service technician in Elkhart shared a photograph of the new electrical routing behind the main cabin panel. The lines were cleaner, the harnesses better organized, and the fuse placements more accessible. Those improvements may not appear dramatic at first glance, but they eliminate long-term service problems that often lead to costly repair hours. Next came a confirmation from a dealer in southern Michigan who posted an image of the interior cabinetry. The bracing had been reworked, shifting from a lighter frame to a sturdier and more balanced support pattern. That enhancement addressed an existing complaint that had followed certain earlier models. Then came the detail that sealed the financial impact. Because the 2026 model did not absorb the rising supplier costs into its sticker, older inventory immediately felt pressure. Floor plan interest does not slow, and when a new unit lands with a stronger layout, cleaner wiring, and no significant price jump, dealerships adjust quietly to avoid carrying aging stock. Those adjustments surfaced in the form of under-the-counter reductions on 2024 units, confirmed through AI. Leaked internal memo from a northern Indiana lot. For anyone evaluating the Freelander 2026, the path to clarity is direct. Ask about the revised electrical layout shown in the technician's photograph. Mention the cabinet reinforcement visible in the Michigan posting. Use the documented pricing stability as a reference point. When evidence aligns this clearly, negotiation shifts in your favor. The Freelander 2026 created a measurable correction by refusing to follow the rising cost trend that shaped the Class C segment. When technicians published images of cleaner wiring paths and sturdier cabinetry, the improvements became publicly verifiable. That left older models exposed because their higher pricing no longer aligned with their construction quality. The dealerships reacted first, adjusting numbers quietly to avoid carrying units positioned badly against the updated design. The correction sparked inside the Class C lineup sets the stage for the most dramatic pivot of all, carried by the Nova 2026, as it pushes the entire van segment in a new direction. Coachmen Nova, the Class B, that set off the shockwave. The van segment rarely shifts overnight, but the early comparison photos made it clear that something unexpected had entered the field. Early comparison sheets revealed a feature list that did not match its price category, and the surprise came from the parts that mattered most on long miles and long seasons. The first unmistakable signal appeared when a dealer in central Indiana posted a photograph of the electrical bay. Sitting inside the compartment was a lithium bank rated at 630 amp hours, written in full on the spec tag. And unlike competing models, this system came installed as standard equipment. That alone forced several rival managers into emergency meetings because similar capacity on their vans required option bundles costing between $8,000 and $14,000. Another shift emerged when a service technician from northern Ohio uploaded an image of the newly designed wet bath. The wall seams looked tighter, the floor carried a fresh grade of composite, and the drain layout had been realigned to avoid pooling, a long-standing annoyance in older Class B platforms. These were not marketing pieces. They were practical refinements proven in the field. Then came a third confirmation from a photograph taken at an Elkhart staging area, showing the triple insulated wall structure, which integrated a new thermal layer between the interior panels and exterior shell. Those additions regulate temperature in a way that reduces strain on climate systems and improves long-term comfort on cold mornings or hot afternoons. Financial consequences followed quickly. A leaked memo from a Midwestern dealer group admitted that remaining 2024 vans were already being marked down to avoid carrying them against the incoming Nova 2026 units. Floor plan interest plan builds daily, and no dealership wants to hold older inventory when a new model offers stronger structure, cleaner systems, and standard features that others list as high-cost add-ons. Documentation from two regions confirmed that early reductions ranged between $7,000 and $11,500, applied quietly before broader market adjustments could begin. Anyone evaluating the Nova 2026 gains an unusual advantage. The documented improvement improvements are not abstract. They are visible, photographed, and verifiable. Use the electrical bay image. Mention the insulation layer. Reference the wet bath redesign. Evidence shifts the discussion every time. The Nova 2026 sent a shock through the Class B field because its improvements were unmistakable in every image that surfaced. A 630 amp-hour lithium system, a cleaner and more practical wet bath, and a reinforced thermal envelope created advantages too large to ignore. Those documented enhancements forced immediate markdowns on older inventory as dealerships worked to avoid holding units that could no longer justify their higher prices. With the Nova 2026 pushing the van category into unfamiliar territory, the broader impact becomes impossible to ignore, setting up a larger conclusion about where the market goes from here. That wraps up the full breakdown of Coachmen's 2026 shift and the pressure it is already placing on the rest of the market. When one lineup forces rivals to rethink their pricing, it signals a moment worth paying attention to. If you want the next update the moment new data surfaces, subscribe and stay alert. The timing windows forming right now will not stay open for long today.